So I wanted to kind of make a video to update people, especially people who knew me before, about kind of my fluctuating and evolving politics. Um, and I suppose I should kind of start where I began, because I mean, I already made a video before on my other channel about kind of how I got into anarchism, which was that I was cruising around one day on a BitTorrent site and came across this documentary called Manufacturing Consent, and I downloaded it and, you know, changed my life, blah blah blah. Had this epiphany. Okay, this is it right here, and like kind of went on from there. But one of the first, right after that, I downloaded this other documentary called Anarchism in America, and kind of got more into reading rather than, I mean, I like Chomsky, but rather than really getting hardcore into Chomsky, I kind of got more into Karl Hess and Murray Bookchin, and this book right here. Yes, read this book. I still really like this book, but where I'm at now is very different than where I was at then, because I kind of went through this evolution. I was an anarcho-capitalist, and then the more that I became exposed, first I was a capital L libertarian, then I realized the failures of the party and all this bullshit. They elected Bob Barr, yada yada yada, or nominated Bob Barr, yada yada yada, and then kind of moved a lot more towards like a sort of fusing, like not only agorist, but like kind of agorist, kind of leaning even a little more towards like primitivism, which oddly enough is almost where I'm back at. But what happened was, after I was married, after my ex-wife divorced me, and I went through kind of this period of like not knowing what to do, and I was kind of I was cross-dressing a lot, and like I knew there was something going on with me, and that my life hadn't really been lived very happily, and really living my life as I really wanted to, and so I decided to really transition and live my life full-time as a woman. It was within the first week of going full-time that all these things clicked in my head. All these things that I had heard about a lot from looking at people on YouTube and watching videos. A lot of the things that I had heard for many years from the lefty anarchists, from the red anarchists, started to ring a lot truer to me. Within the first week, I understood feminism. I understood, exploited classes. I understood privilege, and it was all because, really, like, okay, so here I was, self-conscious and really nervous, and even if you go back and look at it, it's one of the reasons I linked to my my kind of intermediate crossdresser channel, or whatever, like you want to call it, because like I was really even kind of self-deprecating there, and I still kind of am to a degree, but to a point where people watch that video, one of my videos I put up, one of like really early, like I was still definitely a crossdresser at that point, really early video I put up, people were like, why are you so hard on yourself? And it was like, you have this, as a trans person, you have this like insecurity about yourself and about the way other people are going to treat you, because you just never know, and I still never know. Every situation I go into, I never know how someone's going to treat me. It's very nerve-wracking, it's very frustrating, And you know, and again, that's one aspect of privilege that I came to, you know, one of the first aspects of privilege I came to understand, because cisgendered people, in other words, people who aren't trans, don't really understand that. It's very difficult for even other queer people, even other GLB people, don't really understand that, because it's you don't know how someone's going to react to that. You know, especially going into a situation cold. So I was very self-conscious about myself, and I kind of sent myself, you know, I was at an event, and sent a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, a message, a text, and I was like, oh, they hate me, they're all staring at me, and all this stuff, and you know, I felt really awkward, and like I just want to like curl up into a hole and die. And her response like was like a light bulb in my head. She said, they're not staring at you because you're trans. They're staring at you because you're a woman. And that made perfect sense to me. It still does. Made perfect sense to me. Because as a woman, I was now under much more scrutiny than I had been previously when I was out in public and out amongst people, the general population. I was... women are definitely kind of... you know, I don't want to say that they're on a pedestal, but they're like... they're constantly judged, regardless of whether they ask to be or not. They're judged on their appearance, they're judged on all kinds of things, implicitly. You know, without... just because society... that's the way society is. That it judges women based on all these, you know, arbitrary characteristics, all these fucked up standards of beauty, all this other stuff. And the friend that said this to me, she self-identifies as fat. She's a big girl, and she has psoriasis, so like she understands kind of getting really fucked up reactions from people. So I really I almost immediately took to feminism, which is something that I kind of had almost had an aversion to as a male. It's crazy, the people that have known me, how much I've changed in that way. I went from almost being you know, just you went from almost being a chauvinist to you know, I go to you know, marches and stuff like that, excuse me, I think I'm getting sick. Yeah, it's so you know, for a majority of my time as a girl, I've identified as a feminist. And only very recently, the past month or so, has that relationship kind of become strained, where I was linked to on a very fucked up second waiver blog that attacked trans people and attacked friends, and I will go into that in another video, but so, you know, not only do I, you know, I see myself as a feminist, but and being a trans person, I'm really squarely on the left. There's not much I can do on anywhere else, because, you know, that's where, you know, GLBT people belong, and that's where everyone thinks GLBT people belong. And being trans, it's on my sleeve. You know, there's nothing I can do to hide it. I mean, you see me, you hear my voice. I'm not the most passable person in the world. I mean, maybe you think I am, but I'm not. So you know, I make a lot of people, especially people who aren't, you know, liberal or left, you know, people who aren't on the left, it very much have, you know, kind of an aversion to me, and I can feel it, I can sense it when I meet someone. So it's fucked up. So I've had kind of my innings with the left, in the time since I've been transitioned. I should wrap this up. I'm gonna continue this in another video.